Senator Curtis.
Thank you, Chair. It's great to be with you today. I think it's fair to say CEQ and EPA play a pretty significant role in what's happening in Utah, particularly with energy development. Thank you both for taking the time to come see me in my office. Ms. Scarlet, I'll begin with you. Little bias, you honeymooned in Utah. We feel a connection with you. Mr. Hall, I don't try to beat that. But I also feel like CEQ touches directly on some really urgent priorities for Utah, and I'll start with wildfire management. We're experiencing, the West is experiencing, just the whole place feels like it's on fire. Interagency cooperation is just really critical. I'm really proud to work with my colleague, Senator Padilla, on Fix Our Forests Act, which emphasizes this interagency cooperation. In your role at CEQ, how can you ensure that there are no lapses in communication or responsibility among the federal agencies, particularly when it comes to wildfire mitigation?
Thank you.
Hey folks, welcome back to my YouTube channel. If you're new here for the first time, I'm glad you found us. We talk about what's really going on in Washington, and we do it without the spin from the mainstream media. Today, we've got a Senate confirmation hearing clip that says a lot about where our country is heading, environment, energy, and the constant battle between federal bureaucracy and the hardworking people in states like Utah. Let's break this down. So, here's what went down. Senator Curtis from Utah questioned two nominees, Ms. Scarlet for the Council on Environmental Quality and Mr. Hall for the EPA. Now, on the surface, this might sound boring to the average American, but let me tell you, it's anything but boring. This is about whether our government is going to keep strangling our communities with endless red tape, or they're finally going to let Americans live, build, and prosper. First off, I had to laugh a little when Ms. Scarlet mentioned she honeymooned in Utah. Cute story, but here's the thing. That doesn't mean she understands the real struggles Utahns face when it comes to wildfires, land use, and energy production. It's nice that she visited, but we need more than sentimental anecdotes. We need people who will actually defend our communities and cut through Washington bureaucracy.
Thank you for the question, Senator, and thank you for the meeting. I really enjoyed our conversation I think it was just last week. CEQ at its core is about interagency coordination, which is a very complicated process, and it doesn't always go the way it is supposed to, but I'm dedicated and committing to make sure that in this administration, the agencies are communicating actively in person and virtually at all levels of the administration, from down in the field up into the headquarters offices, and any role that CEQ can play in ensuring that that process goes smoothly, we will absolutely be doing so.
Thank you. And I'd point out, particularly when it comes to a wildfire, it's so time sensitive. Decisions
Absolutely.
that are made are very, very time sensitive. In my capacity as chair of the Subcommittee on Chemical Safety, Waste Management, Environmental Justice, and Regulatory Oversight, I also have the direct jurisdiction over CEQ and, by extension, NEPA. I'd like to be really clear. Utahns whose communities are rapidly expanding and whose economy depends on predictable, timely decisions, NEPA delays are devastating and very frustrating. They create unnecessary barriers for everything from housing to infrastructure, energy development. Can you talk about what steps you'll take to ensure all the agencies involved have actually the right technology and capacity to make timely decisions?
Senator Curtis was spot on when he talked about wildfire management. Folks, out west, wildfires aren't some abstract talking point. They're real, devastating events that destroy lives, land, and property. And the problem isn't that we don't know how to handle them. It's that federal agencies are too busy pointing fingers at each other instead of working together. If Ms. Scarlet really wants to prove herself, she needs to show she can cut through the red tape and demand accountability from every agency involved. But do you really think a Biden nominee is going to do that? I have my doubts. Now let's talk about NEPA. That's the National Environmental Policy Act for those who don't follow this closely. Senator Curtis nailed it. NEPA delays are absolutely crushing communities. Want to build a new road? Good luck. Want to get affordable housing projects off the ground? Forget it. Want to develop energy resources to lower prices for families? Nope. Not unless you want to wait years for the government to sign off. Folks, this is exactly why America is falling behind. Our leaders tie us up in environmental reviews, while other countries like China are building at lightning speed. The left loves to talk about equity and opportunity, but NEPA delays hurt regular Americans the most. They drive up costs, stall jobs, and strangle opportunity. Now, Ms. Scarlet did say something interesting. She acknowledged that Congress passed new rules, 2 years max for environmental impact statements, 1 year for environmental assessments. That's great, but here's the real question. Will the Biden administration actually follow those deadlines, or will they just find loopholes to keep projects stuck in limbo? My bet is they'll drag their feet every chance they get. Because let's face it, the left doesn't want progress unless it fits their Green New Deal agenda.
Decisions.
Absolutely. Thank you for the question, Senator. We are actively working with agencies on updating their agency-specific NEPA procedures to be responsive to the directive from Congress and the Fiscal Responsibility Act amendments. Specifically, Congress imposed a 2-year time limit for EISs, a 1-year time limit for EAs. So we are working to establish a very disciplined process with the agencies so that they can achieve those timelines.
Thank you. Mr. Hall, thank you also for visiting my office. Utah is very grateful to the administrator. Please pass on our appreciation for his interest in our issues there. His visit and engagement have been really significant. As you know, we have these very unique air quality challenges in Utah, especially in regions where we have these basins like the Uinta Basin, where ozone issues are very complex. They're not just as simple as they are in other places. And I believe the oil and gas producers in Utah have really stepped up. They've tried to mitigate these as much as they can, and oftentimes they've used innovation or ways to deal with this that have not been recognized by the previous administration, and in some cases actually penalized. So if confirmed, how do you plan to recognize and support producers who are proactively using innovation and ways to accomplish this that haven't fit necessarily in the exact squared boxes?
Thank you, Senator, for that question, because it is one of the main goals of this administration to advance energy dominance, and so oil and gas producers are critical. When I was acting assistant administrator, I made sure to hold them account, but also to not hinder appropriate investment and development of energy resources. And that's why we put out the National Enforcement Compliance Initiative revision to make sure that that happened. In terms of recognizing those unique investments and productive ways in which they're going about complying with the law. I want to make sure that we take all of that into account if confirmed. We would look at that, and there's a couple different ways that can occur. One is through just pushing cooperative federalism, because the states are in a better position often to know exactly what's occurring on these. And so the federal government should not get in the way of the state dealing with those regulated communities if they're doing a good job. And that's what cooperative federalism means. But also focus on clear violations to make sure that when you're actually going after somebody, it is an important violation that actually impacts a community and harms it. And I think focusing on clear violations that are actual significant violations of the law is critical to making sure that the good actors like you're talking about are not unduly impacted.
Thank you. And of course, we invite both of you to Utah to come see firsthand what we're doing. Appreciate it. I yield my time.
Senator Curtis also raised a unique point about Utah's air quality, especially in the Uinta Basin. This isn't your typical big city smog problem. It's a natural, geographic issue that's complicated. But instead of working with states to find realistic solutions, the federal government just slaps on one-size-fits-all rules. They ignore the science, ignore the innovations, and punish industries that are already bending over backwards to comply. That's not good policy. That's just political punishment. And let's give credit where it's due. The oil and gas producers out in Utah and across the West are finding new, innovative ways to reduce emissions and operate cleaner. They should be recognized and encouraged. But what do they get from Washington? Silence. Or worse, more regulations. The Biden administration is obsessed with demonizing fossil fuels, even though those same fuels power our economy, heat our homes, and keep America running. It's about control, folks, not the environment. Now, Mr. Hall over at the EPA said the administration is committed to energy dominance. And listen, I want to believe him, but actions speak louder than words. This administration killed the Keystone Pipeline, tied up drilling leases, and begged foreign countries like Venezuela and Saudi Arabia for oil while kneecapping our own producers here at home. That's not energy dominance. That's energy dependence. And it makes America weaker. Mr. Hall also talked about strengthening state-federal cooperation. That sounds great on paper. But let's be real. The EPA has a history of steamrolling the states. They love throwing down mandates from Washington without understanding local realities. If he's serious about changing that, then states like Utah need to be given real power to manage their lands, industries, and communities. That's called federalism. Folks, it's what our country was built on. But Democrats in D.C. can't stand the idea of states having that kind of independence. So here's the bottom line. This hearing shows us the crossroads we're at. On one side, we got hardworking Americans in Utah and across the country who just want common sense policies, faster projects, cleaner, affordable energy, and less government interference. On the other side, we got Biden nominees who talk a good game but will likely keep pushing the same failed, bureaucratic nonsense that's driving up costs and crushing opportunity. We need leaders who care about the people, not just their environmental checklists. We need energy independence, strong states' rights, and policies that actually make life better for everyday Americans, not harder. If you're sick and tired of Washington red tape, if you believe in American energy dominance, and if you want to keep this country free from government overreach, then this is a channel for you. Make sure you smash that like button, share this video with your friends, and most importantly, hit that subscribe button. Together, we can stand up for common sense, for freedom, and for the future of this great country. Thanks for watching, Patriots. Stay strong, stay free, and I'll see you in the next video.